cybersecurity. Headquartered in Palo Alto and incubated in IIT Bombay, Safe Security, earlier called Lucidio, allows organizations to actually understand the likelihood of suffering a major cyber attack. They've recently gone ahead as well with a fundraising round. We've got Saket Modi, the co-founder and CEO at Safe Security, joining us on the show. Thank you so much, Saket, for taking time out. Let's begin that by talking about the latest fundraise that you've undertaken. Walk us through the details in terms of the investors that have participated.
So, Avanne, firstly, it's wonderful to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show. We just closed a Series B round of $50 million, and it was mostly invested by American investors. Sorenson Capital is the lead investor, followed with Fidelity's VC arm called Eight Roads, and Telstra Ventures, which is basically the VC arm of Telstra, which is also a customer of ours. So we that basically the total round was $50 million. That brings the total round, that the total funding we've raised, to be north of $100 million, Avanne. So that's where we are.
So, Saket, what does this latest fundraising round take Safe Security's total funding to? And can you walk us through the valuations, divulge any details on that front?
As you can imagine, Avanne, we've not been publicly disclosing the valuation, but what I can tell you is we doubled our valuation from our last round.
So Safe Security, it was founded in the year 2012. And Saket, I understand that it was bootstrapped for about 4 to 6 years.
So, Avanne, we were bootstrapped, and for the first 6 years, actually, we did not raise any money because the whole focus was to build a services company. We were not a products company. We pivoted into a cybersecurity and data science AI-driven product company for cybersecurity, and we started building that in 2018. We raised our seed round from John Chambers in 2018, and we then had our Series A in 2021, and just completed our Series B round. We pivoted from a services to a product company. So today, our 100% of our revenue is from our SaaS product, which is called Safe, which basically does cybersecurity risk quantification. And from a revenue standpoint, we've been growing north of 200% year over year continuously for the last 3 years since the time we launched our product offering.
So I just want to understand how exactly it works. It's a platform that actually helps your clients to manage and mitigate cyber risk. You're using artificial intelligence on a real-time basis. How does that really work?
What we do in a very simple way is we go ahead and we ingest cybersecurity signals which are already existing in an organization. For example, in India, very large customers like ICICI Bank, Tata Global Beverages, Tata Sky. There's a ton of very large customers we serve in India, although India is less than 10% of our revenue, but we still serve large customers. So let's take an example of any large customer that we serve. We'll go there and we will integrate with their existing cybersecurity products, like their antivirus or EDR, like their firewalls, their cloud security solutions, their Office 365 or G Suite, et cetera, and then put all of those signals together using APIs, and then we process them using machine learning. There's some data science algorithms that we've co-developed with MIT, and then we predict the likelihood of any cyber risk scenario. And a scenario can be ransomware, business email compromise, data exfiltration, et cetera. So that's at a very high level what the product does. It basically ingests existing security signals, and on the other side, it makes sense out of those very diverse set of security signals for even non-technical executives like the CEO and the chairman of a board to understand what is the cyber risk that they're sitting on, and that happens in a real-time basis, not based on subjective questionnaires and things around that.
So despite the fact that we have seen quite a few economic headwinds, Saket, I understand that you've been growing at a very strong growth rate, close to 160 to 200% over the last 3 years. Walk us through the financials.
So, Avan, there are three key reasons why a product like ours in a space like ours is growing exponentially. The first reason is that there is a fundamental requirement for boards and executives to understand cybersecurity. In today's day and age, you have businesses which are reinventing themselves with technology as the heart and soul of what they're doing, irrespective of the industry you're in. And when technology is your business now, in any industry that you're going in, a breach on technology is a breach on the business. And that's the reason the business leaders, whether it's the CEO or the board or the CFO or even the CIO, a lot of times want to know what is the cybersecurity risk that you're sitting on. And they would not be okay with technical jargons. So, number one, very heightened scrutiny from a board perspective. Number two, there are a ton of regulations. In the US, there is a regulation with SEC. In India, RBI has been pushing. So some of the top regulators around the world have been pushing to find and to have companies quantify the cyber risk they're sitting on. They're not okay with red, amber, green, high, medium, low way of looking at things. So that's number two. Number three, there are cyber insurance companies now which are no longer willing to underwrite cyber insurance for your organization if you cannot prove to them in a quantified way how good you are from a security posture perspective. And all of these three are coming together at the same time with basically a simple question being asked of what is the cybersecurity risk posture of your organization. And that's exactly what we do. We are a cybersecurity risk quantification and management company where we help companies quantify what is the security risk that they're sitting on. So Avan, yeah, that is what this that's what we do, and that's the tailwinds which are actually pushing the whole space on cyber risk quantification.
What's the plan to grow the total headcount for the company?
So Avan, we right now are a team of 150 people, and with the new round of funding, we will be expanding the team. Not so surprisingly, we'll probably by the end of this year, we do not want to go in the hyper scale mode. So we only envision us to end up anywhere between 200 to 220 people. So I keep saying this to my team that I don't envision building a company with tens of thousands of people, but on the other side, the kind of people we onboard, they generally are supposed to be the best at what they do anywhere in the world. So that's the expansion plan from a headcount perspective. You also mentioned about around the business perspective. So we've been very fortunate. We've been tripling our revenue year over year continuously for the last couple of years. And given the strong pipeline and the demand for a solution like ours, and we are still pioneers at what we do, so we don't really have direct competition, believe it or not. In a super crowded cybersecurity space, we are still doing things pretty uniquely. We actually think we can continue the momentum over the next few years, where we continue that growth between 150 to 200% year over year in terms of our annual recurring revenue.
So the research by Safe Security, I understand, has shown that in the next 12 months, the probability of a healthcare company falling victim to a successful cyber attack is about 25%. So how worried should we be then? What's the outlook for media companies?
Well, the first point, Avan, is as a media company, you should be happy because every time there's a hack, you get some really good stories. So, unfortunately, it's the pessimistic way of looking at it, but it's a fact, right? It's just the unfortunate reality. But to answer your question more objectively, media companies in general are not among the top three industries which are right now on the focus for hackers around the world. And just cybersecurity in general, just to give you a perspective, it's a $170 billion industry growing at 16% year over year, which makes it one of the top five fastest growing industry north of $100 billion of total market. So it's a very hot and a very, very fast growing industry. And just as a clarification, we as an organization are not just cybersecurity. We're as deep as you can think about in machine learning and artificial intelligence, because
And across the board, Saket, I just want to understand that given that there's a lack of awareness on, various internet threats, often we fail even to have the basic required knowledge about protecting our computing devices. What are some of the things that individuals and companies can do to keep themselves protected?
a basic thing a company can do to prevent cyber attacks is hire us. As simple as that. Buy safe. I'm shamelessly plugging in my product here, Avanne, but let's come back to the question. Majority of the hacks, fortunately or unfortunately, are not based on super sophisticated zero-day exploits being used by Russia or China. Majority of the hacks really happen because uh, somebody did not close an S3 bucket and it was publicly accessible, or an individual did not have two-factor authentication on their social media accounts, and some very, very fundamentals. So I would highly encourage, and if you were to ask me, for an individual, making sure that your operating system's updated, making sure that you have two-factor authentication across your devices and your social media accounts, and at the same time, just making sure that you're aware when you click on a link, that those are like very, very fundamental things that become super important, which probably ward off more than 80% of the attacks which happen on individuals. And similarly for organizations, making sure that some very fundamental controls, whether it's on the governance side, making sure your two-factor authentication is enabled for your application access, or even some fundamentals like making sure your data backup is in place, go a very, very long way in not only increasing the resiliency from attacks when they happen, but even reducing the likelihood of an actual attack to occur, with blocking the initial access vectors from an attack perspective.
And with that, we're completely out of